Welcome to the Minnesota Newborn Screening webinar on the importance of educating parents about newborn screening and parental options. My name is Amy Gaviglio, and I am a genetic counselor and supervisor for the Newborn Screening Program, and I will be leading you through this webinar. For many of you, you play numerous roles in the newborn screening process, but today we will be focusing solely on the education piece. If you do have questions or concerns about any of the other components listed here, however, please do contact us and we can set up specific training for your facility. Here is our outline for the hour. We will start with a fairly quick review of newborn screening and the important role you all play in the process. Then we'll move into discussing requirements around education and walk through our parental option infographic. Then we'll leave time at the end for a discussion around incorporating education into your workflows if it hasn't already been done. As many of you know, newborn screening is now made up of 3 tests. Blood spot, where we currently screen for over 50 disorders. Hearing screening, where we are looking for hearing loss in the range where we hear speech and develop language. And our newest screen, pulse oximetry, which is looking for undiagnosed critical congenital heart disease. And because of all that newborn screening now entails, we ask that the term PKU test not be used anymore to refer to the heel stick or to newborn screening. Not only is that term no longer accurate, but it can cause confusion with parents and primary care providers. We have seen occasions where a child tests positive for, say, cystic fibrosis, but because the screen was referred to as the PKU test, a workup for PKU was done instead of what was actually needed. We recognize that there are many things that must be done after delivery, many of which likely have a higher priority than talking about newborn screening. So, why are we here today spending so much time on education and newborn screening? There are a few reasons. 1, in research studies and in conversations with us here at the program, parents consistently report wanting this information and feel that they deserve to know what tests are being done, not only because they like to know what is going on, but because they can be better prepared for the results when they come back. Here are some quotes from parents that convey this desire. As I look back now, I think that hospital staff probably should have talked to us a little bit more about it rather than just handing me a booklet. Before doing the screening, please sit down with the couple or mom and let them know what you're testing for sure, and why you're doing it. I think the information is the thing that should be required. My main concern is that parents are not given the information and all of a sudden they get a call saying, "Oh, your child might have X." Please give me information about these tests. It is insulting to me if it is not given, and I am left in the dark. This is not only your information to give, but my information to receive. Another reason why education is so important is because of a large amount of information about newborn screening in the media, on the internet, etc. This is especially the case here in Minnesota, and we find that much of this information is inaccurate and confusing to parents. And the last reason is that educating parents about newborn screening is a legal requirement here in Minnesota. I've pulled out the relevant statute information on the next 2 slides. Here we can see that statute requires us here in the program to create and provide informational materials and encourage you to use them when you are talking with parents. This is a component that is targeted largely towards us here at the program and an area we are trying to accomplish through the creation of materials and hosting of webinars. Now, this part of the statute puts more of the burden on the birth facility, in that it requires the provider to record in your medical record that the parents did indeed receive information about newborn screening and had an opportunity to ask any questions. We often get asked who needs to do the documentation, and it is our interpretation that this documentation can be done by a number of people, including nurses, lab staff, unit coordinators, or the attendings themselves. Each facility will have to determine, based on their workflow, who should document and when it makes the most sense to document. So with that, before any newborn screening is done, parents should receive 2 handouts: our newborn screening fact sheet and our newborn screening infographic, both of which we'll go over in a few slides. After parents have received this information, but still before screening occurs, parents should then be given a chance to ask any questions. We recognize that many times newborn screening information is simply put in a packet or folder along with other information for parents. However, the images here really present our ideal situation for education, whereby both handouts are actually handed to the parent. Certainly, doing this does not need to take a lot of time, and it can be as simple as telling parents the following. Here is some information about newborn screening, which is a series of tests done to look for health problems in your baby that can be treated. You will also have some options after newborn screening is done. Take some time to look these over and let me know if you have any questions or concerns. If you are working with parents who are not English speaking, we do have many of our materials translated. Also, we have a genetic counselor hotline that is answered at any time, and we can help answer questions or talk with parents. We also have a language line available and can help speak with parents who do not speak English. The genetic counselor hotline number will be presented on the last slide. Most of you have seen our newborn screening fact sheet. So quickly, the fact sheet covers the following information: that newborn screening is made up of 3 tests: blood spot, hearing, and pulse oximetry; how parents can get their results, that they will have to ask their primary care provider for the blood spot results, and that they should be given the hearing and pulse oximetry results before they leave. The fact sheet also discusses options available to parents before and after screening and shows the screening panel so the parents can see everything their child is and is not being screened for. Before we get into the new infographic, we wanted to give you all some background on why this piece was created and why we feel it is such an important piece to give to parents. As was mentioned earlier, newborn screening, and really any health-related information, is now available at everyone's fingertips. But the quality of that information is not always very high, and information obtained via word of mouth, blogs, the media, or even other organizations is often quite inaccurate. Here is a quick sampling of media stories around newborn screening in Minnesota, and particularly around what happens after newborn screening is completed. This slide shows examples of information from a medical privacy group in Minnesota. This last excerpt is from a letter sent by this privacy group to all parents in Minnesota that had children born in August and September of 2014. This letter caused a lot of confusion with these parents as it contains a lot of inaccurate information about the program. This letter also contained an envelope asking parents to donate to their efforts, which further caused confusion as parents thought they were being billed for newborn screening. So, because of the sheer prevalence of misinformation, we felt it was imperative that we created a handout with true and accurate information that was easy to understand and could be provided by someone parents trust, their birth facility staff. The infographic is now being sent out with all card orders. You can order the infographic and other newborn screening materials by calling the newborn screening program or by ordering them online from our program website. In the following slides, we will go through the infographic piece by piece so you feel comfortable with the handout and answering parents' questions that might arise from it. The first page of the infographic goes very generally and pictorially through the newborn screening process, so parents can see that after their baby is born, 12 to 48 hours after, they can expect 3 tests. Hearing screening, which can occur anytime after 12 hours, as well as the pulse oximetry and blood spot screening, which should occur between 24 and 48 hours. The middle section of the first page goes into the 3 tests a bit more. It indicates that the hearing and heart screenings take only a few minutes and results are available right after these tests are done. For blood spot screening, this section shows that the blood spots are sent to us here at the Department of Health for testing and the results take a few days. The last section shows an example of the dried blood spots and what they look like when we are testing them. This image of the blood spots is a very accurate representation of how we do our testing. We take a variety of punches from the blood spots in order to test for the over 50 conditions. Once we are done, negative results are sent to the baby's primary care provider and should be available at the first newborn visit, whereas positive results will be called to the parents by their primary care provider so they can talk about what needs to happen next. As we transition to the back side of the infographic, where we more thoroughly discuss parental options, we wanted to, again, share some comments from parents about their desire to know not only about the newborn screening process itself, but about their options and what happens after newborn screening is done. Communication is key. If you're not being informed, people will assume you're hiding something. I believe the hospital should let the mother know what's going on because she has a right to know. After newborn screening is complete, there is generally some blood left over, as indicated by the image here. And throughout the country, these blood spots and the associated test results have been kept. Of course, since newborn screening is a state program, how this information is kept, what is kept, and for how long they are kept varies from state to state. This is important to note for new staff or traveling nurses coming in, as they will likely need training on Minnesota-specific practices around newborn screening, even if they have worked in a newborn nursery previously elsewhere. We do get the question, why keep the blood spots and test results quite often? And there are several reasons. One reason is for quality assurance or quality control. We want to ensure that the results we get on one day are the same we get on the next day, so we use the blood spots to make sure that the testing we do is accurate and reliable. A second reason is for new test development. Newborn screening started with just PKU, and we've been able to expand the number of disorders we screen for by using stored blood spots to help develop new tests. A third reason is for the family. Sometimes we get requests from families who want to use the blood spots for further health-related testing, and it can also be used for identification purposes in the case of a missing or deceased child. They can also be useful for parents with a child affected by one of the disorders on the screening panel who wish to test their other children for that condition, who may not have been originally screened. For example, we didn't start screening for cystic fibrosis until 2006, and we have had at least one family whose oldest child was found to have cystic fibrosis after their second child screened positive for the disease. We also get frequent requests from parents of student athletes who need to provide a copy of their sickle cell results to the NCAA to participate in athletics. If we have that information, these athletes can avoid future testing. The final reason to store is for research. You'll notice that this has an asterisk by it because this is not done in Minnesota without informed consent. As you can imagine, newborn blood spots are a unique and valuable source of information about a single cohort at a very specific point in time. The use of blood spots and test results in public health studies and research make advancements in testing and treatment options possible. After newborn screening, parents have 3 options. The first option, which we call option A in the infographic, is what we consider the default option because parents do not have to request this or sign anything for this option to occur. For this option, after newborn screening is complete, the blood spots and test results will be stored indefinitely, but will only be available to be used for program operations, which are test validations, quality assurance, or quality control, or should the parents request them for their own needs. In this option, dried blood spots or test results are never used for research. The infographic also describes some of the uses that fall under program operations, so parents can better understand how their child's blood spots or test results might be used if they choose option A or the next option, option B. The second option, option B, is very similar to the first, except that in this case, the parents choose to allow their child's blood spots and test results to be used for research. Parents who want to choose this option must sign an informed consent form. We recommend that you have these forms printed and available at all times. To find this form, you can go to our website, go to the right-hand side, and click on Education Materials and Forms. Then, scroll down to Legal Forms for Parents and click on the document titled Parental Consent for Research Use of Newborn Screening, Blood Spots, and Test Results. The consent form looks like this. If I went too fast just now on how to find the form, please just send us an email and we will send you the PDFs. I will also note that we do anticipate changing this form in the near future, either by putting the consent form on the newborn screening card itself or working on a way to obtain consent online or via an app. The option itself will remain the same. Finally, parents can choose to ask us to destroy both the dried blood spots and test results after screening is done. To choose this option, option C, parents must sign a form requesting that this destruction occur. To get to the destruction form, you follow the same instructions as before, but click on the form titled Directive to Destroy Newborn Blood Spots and Test Results. The destruction form looks like this. Again, we recommend having these forms on site by printing some to have on hand or by emailing us for the PDFs. You may still be wondering whether education around newborn screening and parental options can really make a difference. So we want to share with you the story of this little guy, Everett Olson. Everett's mother, Carissa, actually refused newborn screening 3 times because of misinformation about the program that was handed out at her church. But thanks to an informed nurse, Carissa did end up having newborn screening and literally saved Everett's life. Here's a brief clip of Carissa's story.
Carissa now credits newborn screening with saving Everett's life, but initially she wanted to skip the test altogether.
I didn't think it was necessary, and I had this wonderful nurse that came back 3 times into the room, and she asked me again, can we do this newborn screening test? And I said, still, do you have some literature? Let me look at it. And something inside me, and I know it was God that said, you need to take this test.
I think it's important for parents to know that just because your family doesn't have one of these disorders or you don't have a family history doesn't mean that it can't happen. It's a roll of the dice, that's genetics.
Both my husband and I had the exact same mutated gene on the 9th chromosome. Very rare. There's 70,000 live births in the state of Minnesota, and they usually find 1 or 2 cases per year. Just to see even other kids with his same disorder that were not fortunate enough to have the newborn screen, and to see some of the really negative side effects that they've had to deal with: mental retardation, cataracts, severe learning disabilities, tremors. It would have been so difficult if something would have happened to Everett and we had not taken that test when we were given the option to do it.
Carissa shared with us the following thoughts on the importance of talking with parents about newborn screening. She says, "You play an important role because of your direct clinical care with new mothers and families. You can calm fears through transparency and facts, and you can impact decisions by gentle persistence. I do want to emphasize that it isn't so much about changing decisions, but to make sure that the decision is truly informed." To end, we want to make some suggestions for adding education to your workflow and ongoing training of your staff. Ensure you have copies of all handouts and forms for parents. Should know how to access them and print them so they are available. Always make sure you have current resources. Newborn screening is a dynamic program and our resources change regularly. Please check our website for the most up-to-date resources. And again, talk with parents about screening and their options before screening occurs, and then document that this has happened. Again, documentation does not have to be done by the physician, but can be done by the nurse, unit coordinator, lab staff, or the attending, as determined by your workflow and your facility guidelines. Newborn screening continues to see ongoing changes, so it remains important to regularly stay up to date with continuing education. Please ensure that newborn screening education is required for new staff. Remember, traveling nurses will need updates on Minnesota-specific practices as they relate to newborn screening. Look for archived videos on our website to help train new staff. We are always happy to provide free on-site trainings as well. Please just email us and request this training. Thank you again for joining us for this webinar. If you have any questions or concerns, please direct them to me at the email listed. We have also listed the genetic counselor line, which again is a great option for questions or talking with parents.